throughout these storms, of course, we've also really tried to both remove people from harm's way and also make sure that more trash is not entering our waterways by clearing some of the encampments. Thank God that we got the San Lorenzo Benchlands camp cleared. That was, of course, with about $2.5 million of state money, as well as a lot of teamwork with the city of Santa Cruz, between the city and the county. And that area, of course, completely flooded. This is a picture from January 9th. So about 20% of those folks took us up on the services we offered and moved to one of the other shelter sites we're operating, including up at the Armory at Laveaga, as well as over at the Housing Matters campus. I'm also happy to report that we were able to clean another encampment that was behind Emmeline. Just in time, we were able to install some emergency levees to prevent all this trash from entering the waterway with Carbonera Creek, and the cleanup has been ongoing since beginning of this year, and we should see a clean site there soon. I am aware, and have consistently been messaging from many folks about the folks who are camping in their cars along Branson 40 Drive, as well as within De La Viega Park. We'll certainly work with, it's an interesting area. It's right along the border of county and city jurisdiction. The city's park, it's the city's park, and so the police department enforces the laws there. And then along the roadway, the sheriff enforces the law. So it's really a team effort here. We'll continue enforcement, certainly, whenever to get people out there to say that they can't park overnight. We are also looking at, besides just the enforcement, actual engineering additional solutions. So whether it's K-rail or a split rail fence here to prevent parking along the side of the road. We're trying to identify funding to install that infrastructure, as well as expanding shelter and safe parking spaces that people actually have somewhere to go. And then once we've identified those resources, City Parks is ready to clear the encampment from De La Viega Park. Part of the reason that folks have been camping or parking along the side of the road here is that there is a larger encampment in De La Viega. And so it will really be a combined effort once we have some additional resources lined up, and then we can install the fence, whether that's a K-rail or split rail fence. Yeah, sure. All right. I'm not going to call on Mr. Riddle unless you're able to give me a first name there that we can validate, or turn on your camera. I'm going to go to Caitlin next.
Hello. I just had a quick question. You mentioned an Emmeline encampment that was recently cleaned out. And I think you mentioned that some work was done to prevent trash from going into the waterways. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, the encampment was pretty close to the creek, and the creek bed is pretty shallow there. So what they did was basically build some sort of emergency berms, levees to prevent the trash from actually flowing into the river when we got those January storms. So they actually prevented most of the trash from going into the waterway.
Is there any cost associated with that infrastructure that had to go in, or any idea as to the amount of trash there, any type of ballpark figure to clean it up, any cost? I remember, I think it was $2.5 million for the benchlands, I think you mentioned. I was just wondering if there's any cost associated with Emmeline as well.
Yeah, sure. The Emmeline cleanup is probably about $60,000. And the one reason why the San Lorenzo Benchlands encampment cleanup cost so much more was part of that $2.5 million was also housing vouchers for people, so that we could actually find them a place to move to rather than just telling them to leave.
Okay, great. And then the care court is not in effect.
small town, and I moved here from Los Angeles, but originally come from the Midwest about 8 years ago. And I'm, very vested in the community now. And I'm one of those people who takes the time to gather my own knowledge. And so when I've encountered dozens of different homeless people on the streets, I'll walk up to them and I'll say, "Hey, where are you from? What's your story?" And I've yet to meet one person from Santa Cruz, let alone from California. That being said, how are we responsible for the misjudgments of people from all around the country that are coming here without the resources to be productive members of the community? Because in my mind, all the money that we're putting out that I don't really see any positive results from could be invested in the working poor and our teachers and people that have trouble affording rent locally, and taking care of our local homeless people instead of encouraging people from coming all over the country to create the situation that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair question. I know a lot of people share that concern, and myself as well. I mean, we, to some extent, we obviously cannot take care of every person experiencing homelessness throughout the entire country. I would say the issue's a little bit more complicated than that, and we do run a homeward bound program and try to connect people with their families and give out bus vouchers for people
Great.
to return to where they came from. I don't remember the exact number, but I believe it was over 100 vouchers or for the homeward bound program that we gave out last year alone.
Wow, great.
However, it's not like everyone is just coming to California too. I mean, because of the weather, I mean, certainly it's a factor, but Portland, Seattle also have huge problems. The weather's a lot worse.
Yes.
Reports that or studies that have really dug into this show that actually the biggest correlation between to homelessness is high housing prices. And so, I mean, I don't disagree that some of the most visible people on our streets are suffering from mental illness and could be from all parts of the country. But at the end of the day, it's that our high housing prices, which, as you said, are impacting teachers. It's impacting the county's ability to hire people.
Yes.
For even our behavioral health services, we have a 30% vacancy right now in mental health clinician positions because the cost of living is so out of whack here that we can't recruit people from outside of the county, not easily at least. So we're in a kind of a deep hole here from all kinds of compounding issues, right? Lack of housing growth. Both our state and federal government have not consistently funded homelessness. So right now, our county has to compete for all these different grants. I mean, I think we're managing over 42 different grants right now.
Wow.
And none of them is like, they're not on the same time schedule. They're all like, some are 1 year grants, some are 3 year grants. We've got to do reporting for all of them. Some might not be there after the next cycle. So it is, I mean, there's just a ton of challenges right now, for sure. We're trying to just, put our heads down and move through it one step at a time. Getting more behavioral health resources online, as I mentioned. We'll bring 55 new housing units online this year for vets and transition age youth specifically. Where we've focused, we have been able to really reduce homelessness. So we saw a 95% reduction in youth and family homelessness in the last during the last point in time count, because we really prioritized providing shelter resources and getting vouchers to that group. But we continue to see challenges like seniors. We saw an 82% increase in homeless seniors because it's folks' pensions or retirement savings are not keeping up with inflation and housing.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
I mean, I'm kind of talking all over the place here, but there's a lot of pieces to it, and we are definitely trying to get people back to their homes all over the country, but it's not the only thing going on.
Understood. And the thing is that the community is losing compassion, I think, because we see the worst case scenario in regards to the encampments and how those encampments and the various, mentally ill treat the land, and then of course treat you. And I was really shocked when I moved here because I lived in Los Angeles for so long. I've lived around the world, and the first time in a long time that I actually felt threatened by a homeless person was in downtown Santa Cruz. And it was this different breed. There was this entitlement, this benevolence that I'd never encountered before. Because usually, if I'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm all plastic today, I don't have any money," but acknowledge them kindly, that was that. But the aggression and the edgy drugginess to the homeless population that tends to make people not want to go downtown was so shocking to me. Coming from Los Angeles, I'm saying this. So yeah, and you hate to lose empathy for to your fellow humans, but I think I'm speaking for a lot of people. And yeah, so you gave me a lot of good answers. Thank you for that. But I also think that somehow we may need to, and I know it's against national laws, we may need to come up with some kind of system to make sure that as often as we can, that we are actually putting our resources into helping our local people and ensuring our senior and veterans care first, and getting people to understand that this isn't an easy place to come and just absorb benefits and crap up our environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are trying to also be clear about the reality of what resources we have here. So, for example, we're reforming the way that we sort of the housing list that people get on, and in the past we basically just put everyone on the list and said, you'll hear from us at some point. Now we're being much more transparent about the fact that, hey, we've got 5 beds, and sorry, you're number 25, and don't meet we don't even put you on the list if you don't meet the qualifications.
Right.
So we still are working with people, but a lot of that process is shifting from just putting people on the list to, let's look at what resources you have available to you that you might not be leveraging or aware of.
Smart.
Where are your family? What skills do you have? Do you need a driver's license? How can we problem solve and kind of get folks just to the next step? So
that's great. I thank you so much. You've really answered a lot. I did vote for you, by the way.
Thank you.
And I'll let you get back to the rest of the business. Thank you so much.
Good questions. Nice to meet you, Mr. Riddle.
Thank you. You too. You'll see more of me.
Right.